For centuries, the story of Adam and Eve has been a cornerstone of religious belief, with one particular detail sparking endless debate: the creation of Eve from Adam's rib. But what if the commonly accepted narrative is based on a mistranslation? What if the original Hebrew text reveals something entirely different? Something that could transform the way we understand the origin of humanity and the divine plan itself. In this video, we'll delve deep into ancient scripture, explore linguistic nuances, and uncover a truth that has been hidden for millennia. Prepare to have your perspective challenged. The story of Adam and Eve is one of the most well-known and influential narratives in the world, deeply embedded in the religious traditions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. It is often regarded as the origin story of humanity, laying the foundation for how billions of people understand the relationship between men and women, the nature of sin, and the human connection to the divine. Central to this story is the creation of Eve, said to have been formed from a part of Adam's body, his rib. This detail has sparked centuries of theological reflection, artistic representation, and cultural norms, but its implications reach far beyond what appears on the surface. In the traditional understanding of the Genesis account, God creates Adam from the dust of the earth and breathes life into him, making him a living being. Later, seeing that Adam is alone and in need of companionship, God causes Adam to fall into a deep sleep, removes one of his ribs, and from this rib fashions Eve. When Adam awakens, he recognizes Eve as a part of himself, exclaiming, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh." This poetic declaration has been interpreted as a testament to the intimate bond between man and woman, as well as a divine endorsement of the institution of marriage. This account has been taught to generations as a sacred truth, and its influence can be seen in countless aspects of human culture. The idea of Eve being created from Adam's rib has often been used to symbolize woman's role as a companion and helper, derived from man and, in some interpretations, subordinate to him. This notion has shaped gender roles in ways both subtle and overt, reinforcing patriarchal structures and influencing societal norms about marriage, family, and leadership. The imagery of the rib is particularly powerful. A rib is a part of the human body that is close to the heart, suggesting intimacy and connection. It is also a structural component, providing protection for vital organs, which could symbolize a sense of mutual dependency and support between man and woman. However, this interpretation hasn't gone unchallenged, and modern scholars have begun to question whether it truly reflects the meaning intended by the original Hebrew text. Over the centuries, the story of Adam's rib has been retold in countless forms, from religious sermons and liturgies to literature, art, and film. It has been used to explain not only the origins of humanity, but also the spiritual and physical bonds that unite men and women. Despite its prominence, few have stopped to consider the possibility that this widely accepted translation may not be entirely accurate. Could it be that the true meaning of the text has been obscured by centuries of linguistic and cultural bias? This question becomes even more intriguing when we examine the word rib in the context of the Hebrew language. The term used in Genesis, tselah, has been traditionally rendered as rib, but it also carries other meanings such as side or part. This linguistic ambiguity opens the door to new interpretations of the text that could fundamentally alter our understanding of the creation of Eve and the nature of the relationship between men and women. If tselah does not mean rib, in the way we have long believed. What does it signify? Could it imply a more equal division of Adam's being, suggesting that Eve was created not as a secondary or subordinate being, but as an integral and complementary part of humanity? These questions invite us to revisit the Genesis account with fresh eyes and to explore what the ancient Hebrew text may truly be trying to convey. The traditional story of Adam and Eve, as beautiful and meaningful as it is, may hold even deeper truths than we have realized. By examining the original language and its cultural context, we have the opportunity to uncover a richer and more nuanced understanding of this foundational narrative. This exploration is not just an academic exercise. It has the potential to reshape how we think about the origins of humanity, the nature of relationships, and the divine intention for equality and unity. To truly understand the story of Adam and Eve, we must turn our attention to the language in which it was originally written, ancient Hebrew. The words of the Hebrew Bible have layers of meaning that are often lost or altered in translation. And the term at the heart of this chapter, tselah, is no exception. In the Genesis account, tselah is the word used to describe the part of Adam that God takes to create Eve. Traditionally, this word has been translated as rib, giving rise to the familiar image of Eve being formed from Adam's rib. However, a closer examination of the Hebrew language reveals that this interpretation may not be the most accurate or complete. The word tselah appears elsewhere in the Hebrew Bible, and its meaning is not confined to rib. In fact, in almost every other instance, tselah is translated as side. For example, when describing the sides of the Ark of the Covenant, the word tselah is used to denote the lateral parts of the structure. Similarly, in descriptions of architectural features in the temple, tselah refers to sides or supporting components. This broader usage suggests that the term has a more complex and versatile meaning than the narrow interpretation of rib. This linguistic context raises an important question. Why was tselah translated as rib in the Genesis account? The answer lies, in part, in the limitations and cultural influences of early translators. When the Hebrew Bible was translated into Greek in the Septuagint, the scholars responsible for this monumental work rendered tselah as pleura, a Greek word that can mean rib, but also carries the broader sense of side. Over time, however, the narrower interpretation gained prominence, particularly as the text was further translated into Latin, English, and other languages. By the time the King James Bible was published in 1611, the word rib had become the standard translation, shaping the way generations of readers understood the story. But does this translation truly capture the intent of the original Hebrew? Many modern biblical scholars and linguists argue that it does not. The use of tselah in other contexts strongly suggests that the term is better understood as referring to a side or portion of something, rather than a single bone. If we apply this understanding to the creation of Eve, it opens up a radically different interpretation of the text. Rather than God removing one of Adam's ribs, he may have divided Adam into two halves or taken a significant part of his being to create Eve. This interpretation aligns with the broader themes of the Genesis narrative. The text emphasizes unity and partnership between Adam and Eve, describing them as one flesh. If Eve was created from Adam's side, an equal portion of his being, this symbolism underscores their equality and mutual dependence. It suggests that neither is superior to the other, but that both are integral and complementary parts of humanity. Moreover, the idea of tselah as side resonates with the symbolic imagery often found in ancient Near Eastern literature. In many cultures of the region, creation myths feature themes of duality and balance, emphasizing the interconnectedness of male and female, heaven and earth, or light and darkness. By understanding Tsela in this broader cultural and linguistic context, we can appreciate the Genesis story not merely as a tale of biological origins, but as a profound meditation on unity and relational harmony. This perspective also challenges the traditional interpretations that have reinforced patriarchal structures. The image of Eve as a being formed from Adam's rib has often been used to justify the idea that women are secondary or subordinate to men. However, if Tsela refers to Adam's side, or an equal part of his being, this interpretation undermines such notions. Instead, it presents a vision of humanity in which men and women are created as equal partners, sharing the same essence and purpose. Understanding the meaning of Tsela is not just an exercise in semantics, it is a doorway to rethinking the entire creation story and its implications for human relationships. The mistranslation of this word has had far-reaching consequences, shaping religious teachings, cultural norms, and even legal systems. By revisiting the original Hebrew, we have the opportunity to uncover a deeper truth that has been obscured for millennia. This discovery also invites us to consider how other biblical terms and passages might have been misunderstood or misinterpreted over time. Ancient texts are complex and layered, reflecting the linguistic, cultural, and theological contexts of their authors. To fully grasp their meaning, we must approach them with humility, curiosity, and a willingness to question long-held assumptions. The story of Tsela reminds us that even the most familiar narratives can hold surprises when we look beyond the surface and delve into the richness of the original language. The mistranslation of the word Tsela in the Genesis creation story has far-reaching implications that extend beyond theology and biblical scholarship. It is not just a matter of linguistic curiosity. This seemingly small error has shaped centuries of thought, influenced cultural norms, and reinforced societal hierarchies. Understanding the impact of this mistranslation requires us to explore how language, belief, and power interact to shape the way people perceive themselves, each other, and the divine. For centuries, the image of Eve being created from Adam's rib has been used to reinforce traditional gender roles. The idea that woman was formed from man's body, and specifically from a part of his ribcage, has often been interpreted to suggest that women are secondary to men, both in creation and in purpose. This interpretation has been cited to justify the idea that men should occupy positions of leadership and authority, while women should remain in roles of support and submission. In many religious and cultural traditions, this notion has been deeply embedded, affecting laws, social structures, and family dynamics. For example, in Christian theology, the idea of Eve's creation from Adam's rib has often been linked to the concept of male headship. This doctrine, found in various interpretations of Pauline writings in the New Testament, argues that men are the spiritual and societal leaders, while women are their helpers. The rib narrative has been a foundational piece of this argument, providing a supposed biblical basis for the subordination of women. In sermons, commentaries, and theological treatises, the rib has been portrayed as a symbol of woman's derivation from and dependence on man. Yet, if the word Tsela does not mean rib, but rather side or part, this interpretation begins to unravel. The idea that Eve was created from Adam's side implies equality, not subordination. It suggests that Eve was not a mere afterthought or a secondary creation, but an integral part of Adam's being, designed to stand alongside him as an equal partner. This reimagining of the creation story challenges long-standing assumptions about gender and hierarchy, opening the door to a more inclusive and egalitarian understanding of human relationships. The impact of mistranslation is not limited to gender roles. It also affects how we understand the nature of humanity itself. The traditional rib interpretation emphasizes a hierarchical relationship between men and women, with man as the primary creation and woman as derivative. This perspective can lead to a distorted view of human nature, one that sees individuals in terms of dominance and dependence rather than mutuality and partnership. By contrast, the interpretation of Tsela as side offers a vision of humanity that is fundamentally relational and interconnected, where men and women share a common origin and destiny. This deeper understanding of Tsela also sheds light on the broader themes of Genesis. The creation story is not merely about the origins of individuals, it is about the creation of relationships. The text repeatedly emphasizes unity and partnership, from the declaration that it is not good for man to be alone to the description of Adam and Eve as one flesh. If Eve was created from Adam's side, this imagery reinforces the idea that human beings are designed for connection, cooperation, and equality. The mistranslation of Tsela also highlights the challenges of interpreting ancient texts. Language is a dynamic and complex system shaped by cultural, historical, and theological contexts. When translators approach a text, they bring their own assumptions and biases, which can influence the way they interpret and render the original words. In the case of Genesis, the decision to translate Tsela as rib reflects the linguistic and cultural frameworks of the translators, who may have been influenced by patriarchal norms and a limited understanding of Hebrew. This issue is not unique to the story of Adam and Eve. Throughout history, mistranslations and misinterpretations of biblical texts have had profound consequences. For example, the Latin Vulgate's rendering of the Hebrew word keren as horn in the story of Moses led to centuries of artistic depictions of Moses with horns, a misunderstanding that had no basis in the original text. Similarly, the translation of the Greek word metanoia as repentance, rather than change of mind, has shaped Christian teachings on sin and salvation in ways that may not fully capture the nuances of the original term. The case of Tsela reminds us of the importance of returning to the original languages of the Bible and examining the text in its historical and cultural context. By doing so, we can uncover meanings that have been obscured or distorted over time. This process is not about undermining faith or tradition. It is about seeking a deeper and more authentic understanding of the Scriptures. The discovery of new insights does not diminish the value of the Bible, but enriches it, revealing the depth and complexity of its message. The implications of reinterpreting Tsela are profound. If Eve was created not from a single rib, but from Adam's side, this understanding calls us to reevaluate the way we think about gender, relationships, and the divine intention for humanity. It challenges us to move beyond hierarchical models of power and authority and to embrace a vision of equality and partnership. It invites us to see the Genesis story not as a justification for division, but as a celebration of unity and connection. Ultimately, the impact of this mistranslation is a reminder of the power of language and the responsibility we bear as interpreters of sacred texts. The words we use to describe the divine and the human have the potential to shape beliefs, values, and actions. By revisiting the story of Tsela, we have the opportunity to uncover a deeper truth, one that affirms the dignity and equality of all people and points us toward a more just and harmonious world. The reinterpretation of Tzela as something more than rib opens the door to profound revelations about the creation of Eve and the story's deeper meaning. What the text may truly reveal is far more significant than a simple anatomical detail. It is a window into the nature of humanity, divine intent, and the relationship between men and women. By analyzing the broader implications of this reinterpretation, we can uncover truths that challenge long-held assumptions and provide a fresh perspective on one of the most foundational stories in religious tradition. When we consider Tzela as side or part rather than rib, the creation of Eve takes on a new and deeply symbolic dimension. Instead of being fashioned from a single, relatively insignificant bone, Eve is created from an equal portion of Adam's body. This imagery paints a picture of profound unity and equality, suggesting that humanity itself was originally whole and was intentionally divided into two complementary halves. In this view, the creation of Eve is not a secondary act, but an essential part of completing humanity, emphasizing that neither man nor woman is complete without the other. This perspective aligns with the declaration in Genesis 1:27 that God created humanity in His own image, male and female He created them. The idea that both man and woman are created in the image of God has long been a cornerstone of Judeo-Christian theology. But the reinterpretation of Tzela underscores this equality in a tangible, physical way. If Eve is created from Adam's side, it reinforces the notion that both genders share the same divine essence and purpose, standing side by side as partners in the stewardship of creation. Moreover, the text suggests a deliberate act of division and reunion. By taking a portion of Adam's side to create Eve, God establishes a relationship of mutual interdependence. This idea is echoed in Adam's recognition of Eve as bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh, a statement that goes beyond poetic admiration. It is a profound acknowledgement of their shared origin and inherent unity. The phrase "one flesh," often used to describe the marital bond, takes on new significance when understood in this context. It is not merely a metaphor, but a literal description of their creation and relationship. This reinterpretation also highlights the intentionality behind God's actions. The Genesis narrative emphasizes that it was not good for man to be alone, and God's solution is not to create a subordinate helper, but a true companion, someone who shares in Adam's nature and destiny. The use of Tzela as side amplifies this message, suggesting that Eve is not an afterthought or an auxiliary being, but an equal and essential counterpart. Together, they reflect the fullness of humanity and the divine image in a way that neither could alone. The broader implications of this understanding extend beyond the story of Adam and Eve. It challenges hierarchical interpretations of gender and offers a vision of relationships based on mutual respect and partnership. This reinterpretation resonates with the teachings of many modern theologians and scholars who emphasize the importance of equality and collaboration in human relationships. It also aligns with the growing recognition of the need to move beyond rigid gender roles and embrace a more inclusive understanding of humanity. Another significant aspect of this reinterpretation is its potential to reshape the way we understand the relationship between humanity and God. The act of dividing Adam's body to create Eve mirrors the process of creation itself, where God brings order and relationship out of unity. Just as the heavens and the earth light and darkness, and land and sea are created as complementary opposites, so too are man and woman. This parallel underscores the sacredness of human relationships and their reflection of divine harmony. The reinterpretation of Tzela also invites us to consider the role of language in shaping theology and cultural norms. For centuries, the translation of Tzela as rib has contributed to a narrative that often placed women in a subordinate position. By revisiting the original Hebrew text and exploring its broader meanings, we have the opportunity to challenge these assumptions and uncover a richer, more inclusive understanding of the Genesis story. This process of re-examination is not about discarding tradition, but about deepening our engagement with the text and its meanings. This deeper understanding of Tzela also offers a fresh perspective on the nature of unity and difference. The creation of Eve from Adam's side illustrates the idea that unity does not mean sameness, but complementary diversity. Men and women are distinct yet equal, different yet fundamentally connected. This balance of unity and diversity is a recurring theme in the Bible, reflecting the nature of God Himself as both one and relational. Furthermore, the reinterpretation of Tzela challenges us to think critically about other aspects of the Genesis narrative. If such a foundational term has been misunderstood for centuries, what other elements of the text might merit re-examination? This question is particularly relevant in light of ongoing discoveries in biblical scholarship, archaeology, and linguistics, which continue to shed new light on ancient texts and their meanings. The implications of this revelation extend to contemporary debates about gender, relationships, and equality. By understanding Tzela as side rather than rib, we are invited to revisit traditional teachings about the roles of men and women in society, the family, and the church. This reinterpretation provides a biblical foundation for promoting equality and partnership, offering a powerful counter-narrative to patriarchal interpretations that have dominated for centuries. Ultimately, what the text reveals is a vision of humanity that is rooted in unity, equality, and mutual interdependence. The story of Adam and Eve is not just a tale of origins, but a profound reflection on the nature of human relationships and the divine intent for creation. By revisiting the meaning of Tzela, we have the opportunity to rediscover the richness and depth of this ancient narrative and to apply its timeless truths to our modern lives. This revelation challenges us to see each other not as separate or unequal, but as integral parts of a shared humanity, created in the image of God and designed for connection and collaboration. The reinterpretation of Tzela as something more significant than a rib carries transformative implications for how we understand the Genesis creation story and its relevance to contemporary issues. This revelation matters not only for theology, but also for the way it challenges societal norms, reshapes our understanding of relationships, and invites us to reconsider the divine intention behind humanity's creation. The implications ripple through every aspect of culture, faith, and human interaction, offering an opportunity for profound change. One of the most immediate and compelling reasons this reinterpretation matters is its challenge to traditional notions of gender hierarchy. For centuries, the story of Eve's creation from Adam's rib has been used to justify the idea that women are subordinate to men. This interpretation has supported systems of patriarchy, where men are seen as the natural leaders and women as their helpers. By understanding Tzela as side or part, we are presented with a radically different picture, one in which man and woman are created as equals, each sharing the same origin, essence, and purpose. This egalitarian interpretation aligns with the broader message of the Genesis creation account. The declaration that it was not good for man to be alone is not resolved by the creation of a subordinate being, but by the creation of a true companion. The language of unity and partnership in the text underscores this point. Adam recognizes Eve as bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh, a poetic acknowledgement of their shared nature. The phrase one flesh encapsulates their unity, symbolizing a partnership of equals rather than a hierarchy of dominance and submission. This understanding has profound implications for contemporary discussions about gender equality. It challenges long-standing theological arguments that have been used to exclude women from positions of leadership in religious institutions, politics, and society. By returning to the original meaning of Tsela, we find a biblical foundation for advocating equality and dismantling systems of oppression. This reinterpretation affirms the dignity and worth of all people, regardless of gender, and calls for relationships built on mutual respect, collaboration, and shared responsibility. The reinterpretation of Tsela also offers a deeper understanding of the nature of relationships. The creation of Eve from Adam's side is a powerful metaphor for human interdependence. It reminds us that no one is complete in isolation, and that true fulfillment comes from connection and partnership. This idea has profound implications for how we approach marriage, family, and community. It challenges the notion that relationships should be based on power, dynamics, or rigid roles, and instead promotes a vision of relationships rooted in love, equality, and mutual support. This understanding extends beyond romantic relationships to all human interactions. The idea that men and women are created as equal and complementary parts of a whole invites us to reconsider how we view gender and identity. It challenges stereotypes and cultural expectations, encouraging us to embrace diversity and recognize the unique contributions that each individual brings to the collective. This perspective fosters inclusivity and affirms the value of every person, regardless of their gender, background, or abilities. The reinterpretation of Tsela also has profound theological implications. It invites us to reconsider our understanding of God's nature and His intentions for humanity. The creation of Eve from Adam's side reflects the relational nature of God, who is depicted throughout the Bible as a being of unity and diversity. Just as man and woman are created to reflect this balance, so too does the divine image encompass qualities traditionally associated with both masculinity and femininity. This broader understanding of God's nature challenges narrow and anthropocentric views, offering a more inclusive and holistic vision of the divine. Moreover, this revelation highlights the importance of language and interpretation in shaping our understanding of Scripture. The mistranslation of Tsela as rib serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us that even small linguistic choices can have far-reaching consequences. It underscores the need for careful and critical engagement with ancient texts, as well as the humility to recognize that our interpretations may be incomplete or flawed. By revisiting the original Hebrew text and exploring its broader meanings, we can uncover truths that have been hidden or misunderstood for centuries. This process of re-examination is not merely an academic exercise. It is an act of faith and discovery. It reflects a commitment to seeking deeper understanding and to honoring the complexity and richness of the biblical narrative. The reinterpretation of Tsela invites us to approach Scripture with fresh eyes and an open heart, willing to question long-held assumptions and embrace new insights. This journey of exploration and discovery can deepen our faith, enrich our understanding, and inspire us to live more authentically in alignment with the values of equality, unity, and love. The implications of this revelation extend beyond theology and religion to the broader cultural and social landscape. By challenging the traditional interpretation of the Genesis story, we are invited to rethink how we approach issues of gender, power, and justice. This reinterpretation provides a framework for addressing systemic inequalities and promoting a more inclusive and equitable society. It calls us to reject divisive narratives and to embrace a vision of humanity that is rooted in unity, interdependence, and shared purpose. In a world often divided by gender, race, and other forms of difference, the story of Tzela offers a powerful message of hope and reconciliation. It reminds us that we are all part of the same human family, created to live in harmony with one another and with the divine. This vision challenges us to break down barriers, build bridges, and work together to create a world where everyone can thrive. Ultimately, the reinterpretation of Tzela is not just about correcting a mistranslation. It is about reclaiming the deeper truths of the Genesis story and allowing them to inspire and transform us. It is a call to embrace the values of equality, partnership, and unity that lie at the heart of the biblical narrative. By understanding the creation of Eve in this new light, we are invited to see ourselves and each other in a new way, as integral parts of a shared humanity, created in the image of God and bound together by love and purpose. This revelation is not only a challenge, but also an invitation to live out these truths in our relationships, communities, and world.